Hi, I'm Chuck O'Connor, and you're watching Arts Weekly. We have been on the air for 3 years, and this is our 100th episode. To mark this milestone, we want to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to work on Arts Weekly, so please enjoy.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Well, I think the thing that inspired me to start Arts Weekly was that when I moved here about 4 years ago, I noticed this really incredibly diverse arts community. We have a Philharmonic here, for instance, that is just first rate, and the same goes with a lot of the other museums and galleries that we have here. And I think it was my own curiosity to find out more about them and how they did their work and how they went about conducting their own creative processes that led me to want to do a show.
I have several roles as part of the production team. Primarily, I'm a coordinating producer. One of the things as a coordinating producer I do is provide guidance and support to the producer, assistance whenever they need it, and as a backup person when there's technical questions in the studio. I was very pleased when Dean O'Connor came to us with the idea of producing a weekly arts program dedicated to local arts, arts in the area beyond Fort Wayne, and a show dedicated to things that very often don't get coverage in the local media.
Ladies first.
Okay, I'm Janet Bontrager, and I am the segment producer for Arts Weekly.
I work for College Access Television, and I am the lead director, I guess, and primary editor for the show.
At the beginning, I volunteered to run camera. I think it was at the very beginning. Nick was directing, and Veronica was producing, and I was just jazzed because I'm a theater major and a director in theater.
I've ran camera, I've done setup, and currently my job is working audio.
I do makeup for Arts Weekly, and I used to set up the coffee and stuff, and like whenever Candy's doing like camera work and stuff, I fix up the things and put more water in the thing and do a little bit more coffee. So that's what I do.
I get the coffee and tea and everything together, assist Tam with whatever she needs help with. When the guests come in, I offer them something to drink. Oh, and I also work the cameras.
Well, my original role on the show was I was more of a background character. Nick Henney was mainly directing at that point. It was very much all student-run production to start with.
We started the show in the fall of 2008, and I was directing, and we had producers and we had crew, and it felt good to be on an actual television show.
I was the producer for 2 years on Arts Weekly, so I got to pre-interview the guests and put stuff online and write scripts.
I did all the scheduling. We sat down and would determine, what arts would be coming on Arts Weekly, what was currently happening not only within the Allen County area, but the 11 surrounding counties.
Basically, it was just writing scripts, pre-interviewing guests, getting field footage, and now I'd run camera.
I was a camera operator, and sometimes I was a TD. I also got B-roll to show during the production.
It was a very fun year and a very fun accomplishment, and it felt good to be able to tell people, turn on your actual TV. You don't have to go to some weird website. You can see my show, it's right there. And that's what I always love about that first year is just playing with my friends and the end product we got out of it.
think I was on the first segment of the first show, so it really was at the very beginning. And I remember Chuck sitting across the desk, and he obviously had never done this before, and we were trying to still get used to teleprompters and how the intro was going to work and the music and when we were going to cut to who. But it was really a lot of fun. There was a lot of energy in the room, and I think it all went off incredibly well.
That first year where it was after all of the meetings and all of the run around and figuring out the opens and what everything was going to look like. Once we got the format of the show together, it was just the inmates running the asylum. It was a bunch of students running around being crazy, and we had no idea what we were doing. I mean, we did. I mean, we've learned all of this, but we all live at the station anyway. We were all always there, so it was like, it was making a TV show with your best friends and people you see more than your family.
We weren't super intense and like we're able to get along with each other because we all had this wacko sense of humor running, and we all fed that vibe in the control room.
I really enjoyed helping solve the lighting issue, because every week we would come in and try to, you know, figure out the lighting and reset the lighting instruments, and you know, and because of my education in theater, I was like, you know, we can program this board and make a cue and then just say Q1 go, and then everything that we have all set up, you know, would just come on.
This has been a great job in teaching me audio. When it comes down to audio, this one has really helped me further my knowledge on all the technology used, all the techniques used.
Working at Arts Weekly has prepared me for what I want to do for the future, because it's got me inside knowledge of how to set up a television show and how the producers work and how the directors work and how people TD different things and how people do audio and makeup behind the scenes and stuff like that.
I kind of like being behind the scenes. I don't like being in front. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love the spotlight. It's just not all the time. I do like being a camera woman. It is very interesting. I love going to these various types of productions and seeing, you know, the guest speakers and then like the recitals, and that to me is very interesting, and I love that.
We've had a great team throughout the whole run of the programs. The team's varied some. Some of the students come and go, the producers have changed, but all in all, it's been great.
Being a volunteer production sometimes, as the director, makes me a little wary and a little scared of, am I going to have the crew? Am I going to have a crew that knows what they're doing? I mean, that sort of thing. And like, it's been phenomenal, the group that I have. We work as a pretty fluid team, and I think that's what has made this an enjoyable experience.
Joining me is Sam Savage, Assistant Professor of Voice here at the IPFW Department of Music. Good to have you back on the show, Sam.
Great to be here.
You know, the more and more we've gotten into the show and the more that I've been around it, it's been really nice to meet a lot of the arts community and actually get to see some of what it is that we actually provide that there isn't really out there. We sort of fill a niche that isn't really covered. I mean, it's, you know, you look around and there aren't a lot of art shows out there in, you know, Northeast Indiana.
Part of the inspiration of doing Arts Weekly was to help strengthen and serve the arts community, but also to build an arts audience.
I know there are a number of people who watch the show, and this really is at least since I've been in town, the first regular media coverage of the arts in our region, in our community. So that alone has been helpful.
I have an interest in the arts community in Fort Wayne and the arts
areas at IPFW?
We were just watching the program Sunday and found out about the music, and they were touching on all kinds of things that just caught me right there, and I just said to Dixie, okay, we've got to go to that.
One of the things I love about Arts Weekly is the discourse gets out into the public. I've had people come up to me who had seen the interview that I had done with Chuck and were fascinated by the ideas that we explored, because Chuck was really good about trying to lay bare what the plays were about. And so sometimes we got audience members because of it, but whenever I talked to somebody who had seen Arts Weekly, I always got another great conversation out of it.
Maybe they didn't know about an art gallery opening, and maybe they didn't know about a music concert. So it gave them the opportunity to open up the arts to everybody, not just a small portion of the community, but the whole community.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's art going on in the small communities around Fort Wayne, that they're actually part of the Fort Wayne art scene. You know, you have Bluffton and Huntington and the areas around here that those people participate not only there, but here.
Anytime that we can get the arts front and center in front of our community, that we remind people of what an incredible arts community we have. It's not just the Phil, it's the ballet and civic and dance collective and the art museum.
It's really actually kind of bizarre and awesome in a weird way of being on a show that's lasted that long, because you notice on, you know, if you watch television anymore, it's so very rare for any show to last at all.
I think it's a testament to the need in the community to promote arts organizations and their activities.
The fact that Arts Weekly has lasted 100 episodes, it speaks to the foundation that we laid during those first couple years and figuring it out and making it work.
It's just awesome being able to work on something that has gone on as long as this has. I hope I get to work on a lot more programs like this. It's just a fantastic experience, and I'm loving every single bit of it.
I was always curious, you know, how does a musician go about learning their music? Where do they come from? How many hours a day do they practice? An artist, you know, what is the criteria that they set for themselves? Same thing with actors, and what process do they go through? And I think that our audience is also interested in sort of getting that inside look into the creative process. The shows that have been my favorites were because the line of questionings that I developed in the show were the most deep or the most unusual. I can remember talking to, for instance, Rick Steves, who is a travel writer and has a television show. And normally you would say, you know, well, Rick, what's your favorite place to visit? Or, you know, where's your favorite spot in the world? But after a while, it turned in another direction, and it turned into questions about, well, Rick, having seen the world, you know, what do you think about it?
It's important to be informed about the world, and why is that? Yeah. Why is that so?
Well, it's an interesting thing. Think of the powerful
avenues of communication and clout and politics in our society right now when we think of the discourse going on. You know, who are people listening to? Who are people manipulated by? Who are people inspired by? You know, regardless of your politics, you know, there's different players. What would happen to their effectiveness and their popularity if they were talking to a populace that had traveled and had a broader perspective instead of a closed perspective? Now, I don't know if it's fair to say a broader perspective is better than a closed perspective, but I find life is much more exciting and enjoyable and rewarding when I see myself as not threatened by the diversity on this planet, but celebrating the diversity on this planet.
Rick Steves sort of broke the mold for what we do here at Arts Weekly. Like, that's the thing. Like, it was an arts show and it did have arts topics in it, but like, it sort of branched off from that and took a whole different direction.
I come home open to the wonders of this planet and to realize that we don't need to be threatened by people who have different solutions to the same problems. We don't need to embrace their mindset, but we can learn from it. And that's a different approach to things than the tenor of most political discourse in our country right now.
The reason why I liked doing that show was not so much the show itself, was because the next day I get a personal call from Rick Steves on my cell phone.
Cool.
I thought that was so cool. It rang and, you know, oh, it's the travel guy, you know, it's like, he says, hi, Janet, this is Rick Steves. Rick Steves here. And I was like, that's so cool.
We had Neil LaBute, who's a world-famous playwright director, come on, and we did a half-hour segment with him, which was, you know, fascinating.
For me, my film school was watching movies, and what I knew about directing came from directing in the theater. You know, I didn't have an extensive background in commercials or music videos, short films, anything like that that I could then apply to making a bigger film. It was simply working with actors, working with a script, and a personal aesthetic that was actually very controlled and very still. You know, the camera was observational to me. It took pictures of what people were talking about. It didn't try to bring, you know, attention to itself.
Dan Butler and his partner Richard came on and talked.
You know, when you're on the stage, a lot of the story, the weight of carrying the story through to the end of the evening is on your shoulders. You're going to be out there, you may be out there a lot, you may be just a piece of the puzzle, but it's on the actor's shoulders. Whereas, and so it's presentation. Whereas in film, it's more process. You know, the moment is essential because the editor and the director are going to put it together. And a lot of the times, the moments you think are the best moments are not. The ones that you wouldn't even classify as acting in your dictionary are the ones that are really compelling on film.
Sayaka Gans is a phenomenal artist. She is definitely going to be one of those internationally known artists, and she's already, I mean, she's already well on her way for that. And to have had the opportunity to meet her and to talk with her and to get to know her and how she approaches her art was phenomenal for me. Not only that, but she's just one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet.
Tom Rush and Country Joe McDonald were probably two of my favorites because I'm a huge Woodstock fan, and like, so Country Joe being here was just mind-blowing.
There's a non-communication thing about music, I think, that it communicates and it has you, if you feel it, but you can't really articulate what it means. It's not literally the words of a song or the music itself.
It works through your heart in a way.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
The Marshall White episode that we did where his student choir went to China and everything, that was really, really neat. It was some of the coolest footage that we've had on the show. Bulakata Konde was probably, he might be my #1.
Guests go, he was like different than a lot of the other guests that come on.
The Year of the Beard. No, I for the life of me, I can't fathom where the title of that album came from. The Year of the Beard.
Good question. I think
Can you tell us a little bit about how you thought of that?
That's a good question. You know, my wife probably knows more about it than I do because
half stuff I come up with, I really don't even know. They're just ideas I have.
What, did you grow the beard this year? Or
no, this was overnight. Very handsome, very quick.
There's the show that we had Love Boat Sushi come on, and we were supposed to have Heroes for Ghosts as well, and Heroes for Ghosts backed out. And so then we were left with Love Boat Sushi, and we got it all done, and it just so happened that that was the show that went up against the Super Bowl on Super Bowl Sunday. And we'd gone through all this mess to get this show to happen, and we finally got it worked out and on the air, and it went up against the Super Bowl. And it was one of the shows I worked hardest on because I had to produce it and direct it and edit it and get everything linked up, and it just seemed like everything was going to go wrong, but we pulled it off.
So that's how we go about doing Arts Weekly every week. As you can see, we have an enormous good time together, and I'm truly grateful to have worked with such a wonderful crew. I would like to thank IPFW, and in particular Chancellor Michael Wortell, Vice Chancellor Bill McKinney, and Bernie Lohmuller from CATV for giving me this opportunity to produce Arts Weekly. It has truly been a pleasure. I would also like to thank all of you, our guests and viewers every week, for being such loyal fans of Arts Weekly. As many of you may know, this is my last episode of Arts Weekly. I'll be moving on to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln next year, where I'll be the new Dean of the Hickson Lied College of Visual and Performing Arts. I have truly enjoyed my time here in Fort Wayne and at IPFW. I couldn't ask for a better university to work for. I want to ask all of you to have a great summer, and please come back next season for another season of Arts Weekly.